Hi everyone, normally at this point I would be doing a June TBR video with you. However, the last couple of months the TBR list has either been too much, too ambitious, or I've just got sidetracked by it. So I thought I'd do something a little bit different this month and see what you think. I have quite a few books around the place that need reading for various reasons, and I just haven't got round to reading them. I'm also quite a big user of our local libraries, and so generally every week I bring home yet another book to read, so that kind of pushes everything else that I have on my shelf to one side, because obviously my books on loan are on loan for a limited period, and there's always the fear that if I've got a popular book out, someone else is going to want to read it, and so I'll have to go back before I've actually finished reading it. So there's always a time limit with library books. So this month my plan is to read what I can from what I haven't read around the house. And I'm going to show you some of those books. This isn't all of them, there are quite a few more, but these are the key ones that I would like to try and read at some point this month. Obviously the first week of June is Sci-Fi Summer Readathon. I've got a video for that elsewhere on the channel if you want to go check that out, and I will be reading those books first. So everything else will have to wait until the second week of June. So I've got to try and control myself and behave. First up, I have The Last Kingdom by Bernard Cornwell. I have to finish this book because it's a library book. So I started this last month. I was sort of reading it on and off while doing other stuff. And I really need to kind of get through this so I can go back to the library, because it's a new edition and someone else is going to want this pretty sharpish. I've already renewed it once, so I've got to get through it. Along similar lines, I have my copy, so not so urgent, of Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. I have started this book. I really want to get on with this one because then I can read Empire of Storms, which I know is in the library, and I will blitz that ready for when the next one comes out, although I have heard that has been pushed back to next year, so not quite such a hurry anymore. On a similar line, I also need to read A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. This is the third book in the Court of Thorn and Roses series and concludes Fea's story, although it's not the end of that series of books in that world, which is kind of a cool notion because there are secondary characters that I really enjoy, so to read more about them would be great. I've heard a lot of good stuff about this, and I know a lot of people who've binge read it over the last month, that they couldn't wait, and the fact they've now got to wait another year for the next one, so I'm kind of staggering myself a little bit. I have heard of a couple of issues that this book has portrayed. One of those issues was a sentence taken completely out of context of the book. If you're going to slag off a book, make sure you're aware of where that sentence has come from within the text. There's no point pointing at one line and going, ha, problem, if you haven't read the rest of that page, chapter or book. And then you can point out and say, actually, that's not a problem because of X, Y and Z. So it really bugs me when people just take one line out of something and slag off a book because of it. And it's like, you didn't read the book, did you? It's really obvious when people do that. So I want to read this book. I'm going to make up my own minds about things, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how Fea is developed, how she gets out of the terrible situation she now finds herself in. I really enjoyed A Court of Mist and Fury. I thought that was so much better than The Thorns and Roses. I really liked the characters in that book. I liked the whole notion and the way that the story developed. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this takes things further. It's quite a hefty tome. It's not light by any stretch of the imagination, so I might save this for a summer read on the beach, because then I know I can sit and blitz it. I've borrowed Death of a Dustman by M.C. Beaton. This is the same author that wrote A Highland Christmas, which I really enjoyed last month. It's come from the mobile library, so I have about 4 weeks to read this, and I've already had 1 week, so I really need to get a move on and read this one. It's a light-hearted crime series set in the Highlands of Scotland with a very gentle, decent copper who just wants to get on and make his beat a better place and help people. You know, it really is heartbeat in Scotland. It's very enjoyable, and I'm looking forward to reading a full-length novel of the character, because Highland Christmas was only a short novella. I've borrowed The Novice by Taran Matharu. I hope that's right. This is book 1 in the Summoner series. I've heard a lot of stuff about this series of books. I've heard that it's really good. I can't remember who's recommended this on BookTube, but thank you very much people who have. So I want to read this, having found it in the library. So I need to blitz that one. I've also got my hands on a copy of Rebel of the Sands. This is by Alwyn Hamilton. I've heard good things about this. I think it's a very pretty cover. I like the contrast, the simplicity of it. Again, it's a library book, so I need to read this pretty quick. You see a recurring theme here. And I've got The Iron Trial by Holly Black and Cassandra Clare. Obviously, those in the know kind of know both of those names. This is the first book in the Magisterium series, which is a new kind of like magical school training system I'm going to go with. And I've heard, again, good things about this. I know Reagan of Peruse Projects has been on about this book. She finished it last month, so really enjoyed it. So I kind of want to read it and get on with it and see how I get on with this series. A couple of months ago I picked up Moonlocket, which is written by Peter Bazell. Those of you who don't know, it is the sequel to Cogheart, which I absolutely adore. This is like a mixture of Victorian, historical, steampunk. It's a young reader, sort of, it's in the 8 to 12-ish bracket. I would certainly put it up towards the sort of 11 to 12-year-olds more. Very good adventure story set in this really cool world that's almost cogpunk, steampunkish. And it's really clever, and I loved this book so much. It's like, I've got to get the sequel. So I've picked up the sequel, which came out very recently. If you like steampunk, if you like feisty heroines, if you like adventure, if you like Victorian era, you're gonna love these books. And if you've got kids that kind of you want to introduce to steampunk, you want to introduce to fantasy historical, I highly recommend these books. I mean, Cogheart was so enjoyable, so original, and a really good page turner, and I know Moonlocket's going to be just as good because it's carrying on the story. We've got our characters, and they're really good, decent characters that you really warm to, so highly recommend these books. Then The Snakebite. This is a young Sherlock Holmes book written by Andrew Lane. It is the 5th book in the series, and I really ought to get a move on because I know there's at least 3 more after this. These follow the exploits of a young teenage Sherlock Holmes as he learns the tools of his trade for later in his life to become a private consultant detective, the first of his kind. And they are really clever and build upon each other. So if you haven't read any young Sherlock Holmes, you're going to need to start with Death Cloud, and then just work your way through the series. They're very enjoyable reads, very easy to read. Again, I would say aimed at the 11-12-year-old bracket, possibly a little bit older for the later books because of some of the themes, but good Victorian crime with a teenage Sherlock Holmes. Think Steven Spielberg's Young Sherlock Holmes with a heavy dose of Arthur Conan Doyle's characters and realism. Very enjoyable. I've also got Beauty and the Beast. This is Book of the Film. I've seen the film, I love the film, I thought it was very good, building on the animated version that obviously I grew up with, and so this is the book of the film, which I want to see if it gives us any more details, any more background info of the story, and anything that I've actually missed. This is the last of the Twisted Tales books that I haven't read yet. This is A Whole New World. These are written by Liz Braswell. I have to say I really enjoyed As Old as Time, which is the Beauty and the Beast reworking, and having read that and then seen the new film, there are certainly parallels and links between the two. So this is the 3rd one in the series, and I really need to read this. Do you know, I think that'll probably do for now. As you see, I have a lot of books I need to read that doesn't even cover some of the books on the shelf still, that doesn't cover some of the books I've brought from the library in their for sale stock. I have a lot of books that I really need to get through, and this is just some of what I want to tackle this month. Obviously the library books are my priority because they will need to go back pretty sharpish. I still will be reading my Buffy the Vampire Slayer comic this month and the Poe Dameron one that comes out because I collect those, so I'll be reading those issues that come out. And then obviously anything else that I read on top of that I've borrowed from the library or that I've picked up from the bookshops or the charity shops, because one can never have too many books. Please let me know what you're planning on reading this month so I can add that to my TBR list, which is getting alarmingly long now. If you want to see how long it is, please go on Goodreads and have a good look. I've no idea what that was. And let me know what I should be reading, what do you think is a priority in my TBR pile, and you know, kind of let me know if your TBR pile is as large as mine, because I need a little sympathy here, guys. I'm getting slightly worried that my book reading habit is getting out of control. Thank you very much for watching. Please follow me on Goodreads, Twitter and Instagram. All links as usual in the description box down below. Happy reading and good luck, everyone. Bye.